Welcome Carl Appleby to a Legacy of History project. Carl, who were your parents and where are they from?
My parents were Shelton and Doris Appleby, and they both were from Cambridge and House. My mother lived directly across the Lost-to-Mike Lake from where my father lived, so they could, they could see each other's house.
Do you have any siblings? If so, how many?
I have one, my sister Louise, and she was, she married a Fanjoy. In fact, her husband, Robert Fanjoy, is her first cousin. So they're, but anyway, they live in Fredericton, on the Carlisle Road in Fredericton. And she works at the Douglas Church, Baptist Church. She is a caretaker and whatever there. And her husband is retired from NB-Tel. He used to look after all the cell works at NB-Tel. And just the one sibling. Well, my mother, Doris Fanjoy, come from a family of 4 brothers and one sister, and they were pretty poor. But anyway, my mother went to the Provincial Normal School in Fredericton and became a teacher. And this was before my mom and dad were married, and she taught over in Norton, and she taught here at McDonald's Corner School, and then she taught me at Akerley School. In fact, I was a student. I think I was in grade 2 or 3, and so I went to school to my own mother. The teacher was my mother. Yeah. That's why I'm so smart. You see, that's and two of my uncles were in the Second World War, and one was wounded, but he recovered completely. And my one other uncle, he was a forest ranger, out of Fredericton or whatever. He went through forest ranger school. And one of my other uncles, Alden Fanjoy, he worked different places in the woods or on the farm, and done farm work. And my uncle Ralph Fanjoy, he lived in Jimsag, and he had a farm in Jimsag there. And my aunt Flora Fanjoy, she worked at the DVA hospital in St. John here. And my dad and my mom, they were farmers. That's what they done. And my dad and my uncle Merritt Appleby, that lived just about a stone's throw from here, they worked in the woods in the winter and farmed in the summer. And they manufactured charcoal for it was a retail operation but anyway, they piled up. They cut hardwood, and they put about 15 cord of hardwood, and then piled it all up, covered it with straw, and that's what it looked like. And then the ashes from the kill before, they covered it with ashes then. And then they would light it down here, and that would burn for about around 12, 13 days. It would burn, but they'd start it here, but then sometimes it would break through and want to flame. In other words, it just more or less cooked the wood there, and then you'd have to take and shovel more ashes to choke it down so that it couldn't get any oxygen. And on one side, when it was ready, it would kind of sink or go down. So then they'd close all these draft holes on that side and then let it burn on the other side. And then they uncovered it when it was ready, or uncovered part of it as they needed it. And it would be them logs or the coal pieces, coal chunks, would be maybe that long, one and that big or bigger, one solid piece of charcoal. And so they took and they bagged that up and in old feed bags or whatever, and then they would truck it to town and use it in the sheet metal shops for soldering, and the Admiral Beatty Hotel and the Royal Hotel and all that for their rotisseries and all that are for cooking there. And so that was another thing that they done. But they cut and by hand about, I think it was 200 cord of hardwood down in Big Cove, and split it all by hand, 4-foot wood, split it by hand, trucked it up to where the coal, where they done the coal. It was a lot of work, and the dirtiest, blackest job it would be just the color of Bob's shirt. They would be. I remember my dad would come to the house, and there was just the kind of the whites of his eyes. There was all there was there. So it was quite an operation.
You shared your parents had a farm. What did they grow on the farm?
My parents grew strawberries, a lot of strawberries for sale, and potatoes and just general farming, really. The old usual thing. Lots of potatoes and lots of turnips and carrots and beets and all that. But strawberries and potatoes were their main ones. And the strawberries, they had hired pickers, and I think they got, it was 2 cents a box or something like that, a quart to pick them there. And my mother, before I was born there, she'd be out there working and picking the strawberries in the heat there, and she was pregnant for me there, because I run across something there about that there, but I can't find it anyway there now. But yeah, and then the strawberries that went to St. John, to some of the stores there. There was a Malone store over on the north end, and then Castard's Fruit Market. They'd sell them there, and they'd trade. They wouldn't get any money, but they'd trade them for groceries and their general groceries. They'd get a barrel of flour and a 100-pound bag of sugar and the likes of that. Big box of prunes. There, 20-pound box of prunes. And then down to Castard's, the fruit place down by the old cold storage there. And anyway, and get a stalk of bananas maybe, get there. That's the only time I ever had a banana, when they'd be down, and that's the only time they were to town, was either when they took charcoal down or whatever to sell, and but most of the time it was the barter system for a long while, like at the stores there. Yeah, hard times in the Maritimes, but and that they burnt not right in the dead of winter. They didn't burn or manufacture the charcoal, but they done that in the summer as well as do the gardening. But the winter, they in the woods cutting wood for to manufacture the charcoal, and that was a big job then, them days there. So it was interesting, and I was a young so-and-so there, running around there, watching them, and sometimes maybe you're supposed to be helping them, but I think it was more of a hindrance sometimes, but it was fun. Yeah.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, I met my wife when I went to St. John to vocational school, and she lived in Hoyt, New Brunswick, just outside of the army camp, but she was going to the business college down in St. John, and traveled on the train in the mornings from up there, and there was a lot of the guys that and gals that went to school or trade school or whatever. They traveled from up in the boonies there on the train, and then go back on the train at night. So anyway, when we were, well, I knew all the guys, and we, traveling around and prowling around and partying around, and I met her through maybe some of her friends or my friends, and that kind of kept on going, and anyway, we eventually got married, and we have three children, two boys and a girl. Kenneth is about 55, I suppose, or 6 or something like that, and he's the maintenance man here for Cambridge Narrows here. But he had been fuel. He looked after all the fueling of the aircraft at the airport for 26 years there. But I guess he followed his dad when we moved to Cambridge Narrows permanently. He wasn't long. He left his job and built a new house here right beside us there, probably too close. But and my daughter worked after she graduated. She worked for an Irving outfit, commercial equipment. She was in secretary there, and they live in Burnsville, New Brunswick, and he worked for Air Canada. There, see, kind of a little pattern there in there, and anyway, he just retired, and she's been retired or left, and to raise their one son. They have one son, and but anyway, now they're into the casket business, or building rough boxes and cremation boxes for the funeral homes, and they do the setups for the grave, all that, and looking after the filling in for all over the place, like Dipper Harbor, Upham, and most of the St. John ones, and Grand Bay and stuff like that, and yeah, quite a thing there. imagine that, and Troy, this one, Troy, he's the baby. At 42, he's the baby. And anyway, he went to, he graduated, and then he went to UNB for a year, taking accounting. And he was just like his old dad. He didn't really, didn't care for that. So anyway, get a part-time job, or summer job at the airport. They're doing just mowing lawns and maintenance and, labor job. And eventually, I think the following year, there was an opportunity, applications for two firefighters. Anyway, he applied and he got one of the jobs. He was the youngest firefighter in the outfit, 19 years old, and he got on permanent. But then since when the commission was going to take over the word, things weren't going to be as good around there. So he got a chance to transfer to the Halifax airport. So there he is. He's still there, loves it. I got an old Model T Ford car for just I think it's $20 or something like that paid for it out of my berry picking, strawberry picking money. And anyway, I used to run around the yard and sometimes on the road with it, and but anyway, this day after school, I thought I'd take a little drive down the highway. So come back, I'm going to see how fast she'll go. And I was going along great, and all of a sudden she took to going back and forth, and the first thing I knew, I was upside down in the ditch. And there was about so much water in it there. And I managed to get out. Anyway, didn't drown. And I'll tell you, I was in a lot of trouble when I went back to the house and told my dad that, he said, "Where's the car?" I said, "Well, it's down the road. I'm in the ditch." When he went down to get the car, it was more than in the ditch. That the wheels were up on the wrong side of the car there, and I was I was grounded for a while, I'll tell you then, and but yeah, I had a lot of them things happen. There was them old cars. Another time, Allen Strait and I was down here. Him and I was over to Union Settlement over Grand Lake there, and I had a Model A Ford. Then I graduated, got one little better. Still didn't have any license, but and it was this time of year, and the same kind of a storm like it was there, the high water like it was there a week ago or so. So we were coming through the Union Settlement Road to get onto the this one. I don't know what route it is, but anyway, and the lights would be something like lighting a match. The two lights in them days there that you couldn't see, and no brakes. You didn't have any brakes on them, well, very little, I'll put it that way. And so we were heading home about, I don't know, probably about 11 o'clock at night, and here the culvert had washed out, and them days it was like the old wooden culverts, and it had gone. Boy, we were just buzzing right along, and all of a sudden, and gear down, right on her head, right on her end, and Alan put his head through the windshield. We had to walk back about 4 miles and stay overnight. Yeah. And left the car there. I mean, left it there for 2 days there. And anyway, we got her out, and that was it there. That got her going again. Yeah. Oh, lots of them stories. Yeah.
How did your mom and dad transport the produces?
That they had in the early times. It went on the Majestic, or I don't believe the Purdy, SS Purdy, come up here. It was the Majestic was more or less the workhorse there, and they'd load it at the wharf here, and then it would go to Indian Town in St. John there at the foot of Main Street, and it'd be unloaded onto the wharf there lots of times, there most of the time, and then some of the stores and that wanted buying it, they would come and pick it up there. But then later in I guess it would be quite a bit later, some of it went by road, and my father there MacIvered up an old truck, took a car and an old Dodge car and cut it in two and made a truck out of it there, and then they'd take their own, haul their own there. But it was quite a thing. And my grandmother and my mother were super butter makers, and they'd send the butter in these big earthen crocks. They're all done up with enough fancy patties there with the mold and a special design on it. And it was and then you could if you wanted to catch the boat to town, if you had it timed right, you could row out and the boat would stop, and you could get aboard the boat and go to town. And I think it was 50 cents I think it was to go to town on the boat. But I have went to town on the boat and once or twice maybe, and then at the streetcar at the foot of Main Street, got on the old streetcars, and that was a long while ago there, and clunkety bang along there. Things are the things didn't move very fast in them days.
Can you share some stories about hunting when you were growing up?
Yes, when I went to the Acrely School for a few years there, from grade 1 to I suppose 4 maybe or 5, and I had to walk a mile and something to school each way. So in the morning I would take and sneak my dad's 22 rifle with me, and before I got to school, I'd just kind of hide that in the alder bushes or the ditch, and then soon out of school I could come, because the school was fairly close to the water, and there was lots of old stone fences and all that stuff there, and oak trees, and be lots of partridges along there. So I could hunt all the way home. I'd have a mile to travel there, and I'd hunt there. So we'd have some partridges for supper the next night there. And but then I got a little bit older there. I'd be out. Well, I used to go with my dad when he went hunting. He took me with him, and sometimes it was after night. And he would get me hold the light there, and I really thought that was great. Hold the light, and then here's that big deer, the big antlers there, and he'd bang, shoot. Anyway, I'd help him, and we'd drag that home and dress it up, and there was our meat. But in the summer, sometimes it was pretty warm, didn't have any fridge. So anyway, would hang the meat in the old hand-dug well. That's where you kept your milk and cream and anything you didn't want to spoil, you took and you put it down the well, and kept it cool there. And yeah, I was a chip off the old block there when it come to the hunting, because my father was well, in them days you had to either had to get it out of the water or out of the woods or raise it. I mean, yeah, we lived good, but there wasn't any luxuries. Put it that way. But yes, it was. The first few grades was fun. It was enjoyable, but after I got up to the probably after the 5th or 6th grade, it wasn't that much fun. I'd rather be doing something else, maybe raising. Well, I can't say the word, I guess, but acting out there. Or be working, yes, yeah. I'd rather work and make a few cents than attend to my studies there. But I went to four different schools in Cambridge Narrows. I went to Ackerley School. I went to the Narrows School on the other side of the water. And then McDonald's Corner School at McDonald's Corner, and finished off at the Cambridge Narrows High School there. And then from there, I didn't do very good in grade 11. And so I'm not gonna go anymore. And my parents wanted me to go and graduate and go on to college and be a doctor or whatever, or anything you want. We'll pay your way, no matter how long it takes. And anyway, I reneged. I didn't want to go to school here in the country, so I went to a vocational school and took a mechanics course. And from there on, it was all hard work there, but interesting. I was making some money. I was earning a bit of money. I started out at $150 a week, or $150 a month. Pardon me, $150 a month in an automotive machine shop on Dock Street in St. John. So then, I only stayed there about a year or so, and trying to run an old car. And paid $12 a week board, and run an old car. I didn't have much money left there, so I got another job at a Ford dealership, and I got $1.60 an hour. Imagine, I was really making money there. Yeah, and but anyway, I stayed there a couple of years or so, and it closed. It shut down. And so then I got a job in Fredericton at a Dodge dealer in Fredericton, McNaughton Motors on King Street there so we moved to Fredericton. By that time I was married and had a little one there. And so we moved to Fredericton and rented an old ramshackle apartment over National Meat Market there, and a top story there. And there'd be about 100 there in the summer there, at least in the evening. Oh, terrible. But anyway, it was handy to work, and but I stayed there for a while. And then I wanted to get back to St. John. I didn't care for living in Fredericton. And so I went to work in St. John. I moved back to St. John and worked for the General Motors dealership, J. Clark & Sons, for a few years. And they closed down. So then what did I do then? Oh, I guess I went and managed a service station for them while they were closing out. And after that, I went and I leased an Irving service station across from the St. John Airport there. And I was there for 5 years in the service station business there. And then, and at that time, I was driving school bus on the side as well. And from there on, I went to, I was driving school bus, but I went to, I got a job in the maintenance garage. We had, it was about 88 school buses running out of the garage at the Bayside Junior High School. The garage was underneath the high school there. So anyway, but I still drove bus. I drove. I'd take the kids. I lived out by the airport anyway, so I brought my kids in. And then I worked until about 3 o'clock or 3:30, and then I'd go and pick up my little kids, and then around to the high school and get my high school kids and head home. And by that time, I had built myself a garage in my.
Carl Appleby, we would like to thank you for participating in the Legacy of History project, as we so much appreciate your stories you have shared with us.